So welcome back to Mysterious 51. We're so glad you joined us. This is going to be a infuriating episode, one of Jordan's specialties.
It's my favorite kind.
Now this time you'll actually get to see me seething in anger. Because this story brings up two things that I very much hate.
Children.
Florida and children. Hold on. Let me rephrase that because I don't want that taken out of context. Children getting hurt.
There you go.
I very much love children. I got two children of my own, so...
Even I will admit they're cute.
They are. Jordan likes them, so she doesn't like children.
It's the truth.
So, okay. Anyways, onward.
Shall we? So Caylee Anthony was born March 19th, 1986 to Cindy and George Anthony. By all accounts, she was a bright and pretty normal kid up until around high school when she started habitually lying. By the end of high school, she didn't even have enough credits to graduate and hadn't even been going to school, which she lied and hid from her family completely. They found out about her lies when they went to watch her walk at graduation, and surprise, she wasn't. Love that. When Caylee was 19, she got pregnant and hid the pregnancy from her entire family until she was showing and physically could not hide it anymore, planning to give the baby up for adoption. But when her parents, Cindy and George, finally got the truth, they convinced her to keep the baby and that they would help raise it. And on August 9th, 2005, Caylee gave birth to a little girl named Caylee Anthony. Caylee and Caylee lived with Cindy and George, Caylee's parents, with them watching Caylee happily as promised. But as Caylee grew older, Caylee's old habits grew stronger. Caylee was spending a lot of time with her grandparents and Caylee's fiance at the time, Jesse Grund. While Jesse wasn't Caylee's biological father, and we still have no idea who actually is, Jesse stepped up to fill the role. Over time, the relationship seemed to fizzle for Caylee, and she broke it off in May of 2006. But Jesse still tried, not successfully, to be a part of Caylee's life. For the next couple of years, everything seemed normal from the outside for the Anthony family. Caylee was either with her grandparents, swimming in their pool, or with Caylee. But on June 16th, 2008, Caylee would leave Cindy and George's home for the last time. Caylee took them both on a work trip to Tampa and more or less moved out with a friend. 30 days later, on July 15th, 2008, George and Cindy would get a very unusual call. The car they gave Caylee to drive had been abandoned and had been towed away. When George, who used to work in law enforcement, went to pick it up, he immediately noticed that the car smelled distinctly like human decomposition. But when he opened the doors in the trunk, it was filled with trash. Moldy, maggot-filled trash. Disgusting. He drove the car home, and both he and Cindy were outraged that not only had Caylee abandoned the car, but in this condition. So Cindy tracked Caylee down at an ex-boyfriend's house and found out that Caylee wasn't there. Caylee was not with her at all. Caylee told her mom, Cindy, that Caylee had been missing for a month, but that she knew where she was. She was with Zanny the nanny. Cindy had called Caylee many times over this month-long period and had asked to speak to Caylee, but every time she was asleep or she was playing or she was with the nanny. And now Cindy knew what she thought was the truth. So when she got Caylee back to their house, the panic hit that Caylee really was missing, and she called 911 3 separate times. She was irate that Casey had stolen their car, she'd stolen their money. But on the third call, she breaks down and officially announces that Caylee Anthony has been missing for 31 days.
When please just say on to be recorded, I can help you. Thank you. Hello.
Hi, I drove to the police department here on Pershing, but you guys are closed. I need to bring someone into the police department. Can you tell me where the closest one I can come into?
What are you trying to accomplish by bringing them to the station?
I have a 22-year-old person that has grand theft sitting in my auto with me.
So the 22-year-old person stole something?
Yes.
Is this a relative?
Yes.
Where did they steal it from?
My car and also money.
Okay, is this your son?
Daughter.
Okay, so your daughter stole money from your car?
No, my car was stolen. We've retrieved it today. We found out where it was at. I've retrieved it. I've got that, and I've got affidavit for my banking account. I want to bring her in. I want to press charges.
Where did all of this happen?
Oh, it's been happening.
No, but I need to establish a jurisdiction is what I'm trying.
Oh, I live in Orlando.
Yeah, but what address did these thefts occur at?
Well, I guess my residence, I guess.
Okay.
4937 Hope Spring Drive.
That's actually going to be in the jurisdiction of the sheriff's office, ma'am, not the Orlando Police Department.
All righty.
Let me transfer you over to the communications section for Orange County.
Okay. Now, is the Orlando Sheriff's Department the one on 436, is that open this afternoon, this evening?
The substation you're at on Pershing, if it's Orlando Police, we're open primarily during the day.
Uh-huh.
But that's not the sheriff. That's city police, which does not have jurisdiction for your
I know there's a sheriff's department on 436.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer you to the sheriff's communications section, and you can determine that. Hold on.
Okay. Because my next thing will be down the child thing, and we'll have a court order together. If that's what you want to play, we'll do it. And you'll never. Well, then you have. No, I'm not giving you another day. I've given you a month. Orange County Sheriff's.
What's the address of your emergency?
4937 Hope Spring Drive.
4937 Hope Spring
Drive, Orlando.
Okay, what's happening?
I have someone here that I need to be arrested in my home.
They're there right now?
I have a possible missing child. I have a 3-year-old that's been missing for a month.
A 3-year-old?
Yes.
Have you reported that?
I'm trying to do that now, ma'am.
Okay, what did the person do that you need arrested?
My daughter.
For what?
For stealing an auto and stealing money. I already spoke with someone. They said they would patch me through the Orlando Sheriff's Department and have a deputy here. I was in the car. I was going to drive her to the police station, and no one's open. They said they would bring a deputy to my home when I got home to call them.
So she stole your vehicle?
Yes.
When did she do that?
On the 30th. I just got it back from the impound. I'd like to speak to an officer. Can you have someone come out to my house?
Okay. Okay, I got to ask you these questions so I can put them in the call, okay?
Okay.
30th of June?
Yes.
Okay, how old is your daughter?
22.
Okay, what's her name?
My name?
Her name.
Her name, Caylee Anthony. C-A-S-E-Y.
And your name?
Cynthia Anthony.
Cynthia, can I get a phone number that I can reach you at?
407-808 4731.
And you said you have the vehicle back?
Yes. And I have the statement.
Casey's there right now?
Yes, I got it. I finally found her after a month. She's been missing for a month. I found her, but we can't find my granddaughter.
Okay, how tall is Casey?
5'1.5".
Thin, medium, or heavy build?
Thin.
Color hair?
Brown.
What color shirt is she wearing?
White.
What color pants?
Oh, they're shorts. They're plaid. They're like pink and teal and white and black plaid.
Does she have any weapons on her?
No.
Is Casey not telling you where her daughter is?
Correct.
Okay, we'll have a deputy out to you as soon as one's available, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. What's your emergency?
I called a little bit ago, the deputy sheriff's down here. I found out my granddaughter has been taken. She has been missing for a month. Her mother finally admitted that she's been missing.
Okay, what is
here now?
Okay, what is the address that you're calling from?
4937 Hope Spring Drive. We're talking about a 3-year-old little girl.
4937 what?
Hope Spring, HOPESPRING Drive, Orlando. My daughter finally admitted that the baby's in the store. I need to find her.
Your daughter admitted that the baby is where?
But the babysitter took her a month ago that my daughter's been looking for. I told you my daughter was missing for a month. I just found her today, but I can't find my granddaughter. And she just admitted to me that she's been trying to find her herself. There's something wrong. I found my daughter's car today, and it smells like there's been a dead body in the damn car.
Okay, what is the 3-year-old's name?
Caylee, Caylee Anthony.
Caylee Anthony?
Yes.
Okay, is she white, black, or Hispanic?
She's white.
How long has she been missing for?
I have not seen her since the 7th of June.
What is her date of birth?
8/9/2000. Oh God, she's 3. She's 2005. George Kaylee's missing. Kaylee's missing. Casey says Danny took her a month ago. She's been missing for a month.
Okay, I understand. Can you calm down for me for just a minute and I need to know what's going on, okay? I'm gonna try and talk. Is your daughter there?
I'm on the phone with them.
Is your daughter there?
Yes.
Can I speak with her? Do you mind if I speak with her? Thank you.
I called them 2 hours ago. They haven't gotten here. Can they finally admitted to Danny took her a month ago. It's trying to find her.
Ma'am.
Okay, Danny's here. They want to talk to you. Answer the question. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Hi. Well, can you tell me what's going on a little bit?
I'm sorry?
Can you tell me a little bit what's going on?
My daughter's been missing for the last 31 days.
And you know who has her?
I know who has her. I've tried to contact her. I actually received a phone call today, now from a number that is no longer in service. I did get to speak to my daughter for about a minute.
Okay, did you guys call and report a vehicle stolen?
Yes, my mom did.
Okay, so there's been a vehicle stolen too?
No, this was my vehicle.
What vehicle was stolen?
It's a 98 Pontiac Sunfire.
Okay, I have deputies on the way to you right now for that. But now your 3-year-old daughter is missing. Caylee Anthony.
Yes.
White female.
Anthony. Yes, white female.
3 years old. 8/9/2005 is her date of birth.
Yes.
And you last saw her a month ago?
31 days. It's been 31 days.
Who has her? Do you have a name?
Her name is Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez.
Who is that? Babysitter?
She's been my nanny for about a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Why are you calling now? Why didn't you call 31 days ago?
I've been looking for her and have gone through other resources to try to find her, which was stupid.
Okay. Can you give me the name of the nanny again? Like, spell it out for me?
Zenaida, Zenaida.
Last name?
Fernandez. Hyphen Gonzalez. I think the officers are here.
The officers are there?
Yes.
Okay, hold on a second. Don't hang up with me yet. I need you. Okay.
The first thing I want to say, though, is about the first call. Like, yes, we all know Caylee Anthony's, her story was bullshit. But the Cindy Anthony was really, the call really was weird, the first one, I think.
Yeah, she was so prepared to bring Caylee in and get her detained.
Yeah.
She was done.
Well, no.
Bring her in.
No, I get that part, but she was just, like, kind of cool and collected. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess.
She didn't know about Caylee at that point, I don't think.
I mean, I'm still on the, you know, I'm definitely on the group that thinks that her parents knew a lot more than what they said. Your granddaughter goes missing for 31 days and you don't say anything. I don't know. This whole situation, like, a lot of people failed this little girl. Not just her mom who killed her, but her grandparents too. I mean, I don't know. I can't even fathom. Her call just seems too calm. Like, because, I mean, at this point, she knew that Caylee was at least not with Caylee.
Yes, at the very least, she knew that. And I don't know if she was overly confident in Caylee believing that she was with the nanny. I have no idea. I don't know if she's just incredibly naive and believing all of her lies. I have no idea.
I don't know. There's just a lot of weirdness to me in the calls themselves. This whole story just pisses me off.
And it just gets weirder from here. And
trust me, I'm going to be very critical of the prosecutor and everybody along. Like, it's not just a lot of people failed.
They did. And I'm going to go somewhat in depth on that when we get there. Not crazy in depth, because frankly, if we did, we would be here for days. Yeah. We would be here for days, and we would lose people for that. I'm not going to put you guys through that, but it's ridiculous. So
I will say the one group of people that I'm not going to blame for any of this is the jury, just because they were not presented a case, with enough evidence to convict.
No.
They did exactly what they were supposed to do. And, 'cause a lot of people forget that it's the prosecutor's job to make the case. Prosecutor did not do that in this instance.
No, and we'll get there on that.
Yeah, I know.
Because
I'm jumping ahead, but
we will. There's a lot still to go.
I know. Can we just say she's a murderer, allegedly, and just move on?
No.
Because, we can't actually say she's a murderer because technically...
She's not convicted.
Huh?
She's not convicted. I know. Yeah.
So.
All right. Shall we?
Technicalities.
When police came to take statements, Caylee led officers to where she last left Caylee with Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez, better known as Zanny the Nanny, who she met while working at Universal Studios. She led them to an apartment that hadn't been occupied in 142 days. Another lie. Already discovering her knack for lying, officers allowed Casey to take them to her boss at Universal Studios to find Xana the nanny, who supposedly had taken Caylee. When they arrived at Universal Studios offices, no one seemed to know who Casey was, but that didn't stop her. She lied her way through until she finally got lost and admitted she didn't actually work there, which meant officers were going to have to search for Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez on their own, and she was caught, again, in another lie. Meanwhile, the search for Caylee Anthony was still going strong. Casey was officially arrested for child neglect on July 16th, 2008, and cadaver dogs hit on the trunk of her car, alerting for decomposition. But she wasn't in jail for long, no, after a California bounty hunter posted her bail in hopes of her leading them to Caylee's body, or just to Caylee in general. Unfortunately for him, she went almost immediately back to jail for cashing bad checks. Mother of the Year. Through all of this, George and Cindy visited her in jail off and on, and one specific visit seemed to go viral. It was a few days, a couple weeks before Caylee's birthday would have been. And they were talking about the party that they'd like to have for her, finding her, getting her home. But the line that gets me is when Cindy, which is Casey's mom, says, "Once she's found, you can tell everybody what you know, then you'll be released, don't you think?" And that gets me. That, and in the recording, which we can play bits of, Casey says, "I just want to find that girl. Not, my daughter, that girl." And to me, that's very telling. It's disassociative to me.
Anything else? Just that I love her. I truly, truly love that little girl and miss her so much. God, did I miss you guys. I know, honey, we miss you too. I have a question for you. Go ahead. How come she never got a chance to get the car? Doesn't make sense. Mom, because this is recorded, and I don't know who's gonna see things, and who's gonna misconstrue whatever else. Like I said, there's things that I directly need to say to each of you. Okay. I trust that. Lee and I are finding other means to do. So. Okay. And I'll do whatever it takes. I feel the exact same way. That's exactly what I've been saying. I don't care what I have to do. When I told them I would lie, I would steal, I would do whatever by any means to get her back. That's exactly how I feel. It's the truth. Casey, we have to find her before her 3rd birthday. Mom, I know. That's coming up fast. I know, we have a couple weeks. I don't want to wait another minute, let alone... I don't want to wait another minute. I want her to be found, whether I'm still stuck in here or not. I don't care. I think once she's found, then you can tell everybody what you know, and you'll be released. Don't you think? Potentially, I don't know. Yuri has it set in his mind that I've done something. Well, he thinks you guys did something to Caylee.
I'm going to try to play devil's advocate a little bit here. Not much, because trust me, I think I made my feelings very clear on what I think about this.
Just a little. A little bit.
However, I've said it before, people's behavior, especially when dealing with cops in traumatic situations, is not necessarily going to be what we expect it to be. Obviously people do weird things when they're in a stressful situation. We've seen it. How many cases have we seen where people have done stuff that they normally wouldn't do?
You're completely right, and I agree with that.
I hate the fact that I'm right, but
I do. I just don't believe
I know.
anything out of this one's mouth.
Like I said, I will play devil's advocate very little bit here. Because ultimately, like I said, I believe it's the prosecutor's job to build a case that sticks and the jury's job to convict. Prosecutor did not do their job, period. They did not have a case. They just didn't. And that's honestly, like, obviously, allegedly, she murdered her daughter. Gotta be very careful on how we say this.
You do. Don't want to get sued, thanks.
But we can see that, but it's also still just circumstantial evidence. There's never been any hard evidence. And honestly, this, I don't know. I'm rambling a little bit because this case is frustrating. But what I will say is, human behavior is not necessarily evidence for me, type thing. Like, just like eyewitness testimony.
And I get that.
So
my biggest thing with her is you just can't trust a single thing she says.
Yeah, I agree with that. However, as much as I hate to say it, being a liar doesn't mean you're going to be a murderer.
No, and you are right. You're 100% true.
To me, those things are two totally separate things. So, just because she's a liar doesn't mean she's a murderer. Murderers can be the most honest people you know.
That's true.
There's so much I want to say that I just can't say.
All right. Well, on October 14th, 2008, Casey was officially charged with first-degree murder. And like we just said, I think, as well as Matt, they rushed this. At this point, they had very little evidence and they had no body. All they had was a missing toddler. At this point, they had a hair from the trunk of Casey's car that was extremely similar to Caylee's, and the fact that cadaver dogs had hit on the decomposition smell in the same trunk, and just a history of lies from Casey.
Yeah, so this part really ticks me off. Because at this point, they cannot prove that Caylee's actually dead.
Ding, ding, ding. And that's one of the things I think that they should have waited on.
Yeah.
Because they decided to start going after her too soon.
Yeah.
And people are going to attack me for this. They are. And I need y'all to calm it down for a second. They immediately went directly after Casey. And I get that. I do. But they also should have looked anywhere and everywhere else that they possibly should have. Did they look for Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez? Yes. She was a real person. There was a defamation suit, which didn't go anywhere, unfortunately for her, because that poor woman has had her name just dragged. I feel really bad for her. But at this point, and we've talked about it in other cases, they just zoned right in on one person.
Yeah.
And made it their mission at this point to match the evidence to the person.
Yeah.
With very little, if any, evidence.
And that's, we've talked about this before. And in fact, I got blasted on our podcast because I said, when a wife or husband are murdered, the spouse is always the first person that they look at and hyper-focus on.
It's the truth.
And apparently somehow that translates to me being, for abusers and against women's rights, which...
That was still funny.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, in the thing I said, spouses, not... But...
Darn you.
Yeah, I know. Anyways, so, I mean... They definitely very much just tried to, it seemed like they were more interested in building the case than actually finding Caylee.
Exactly. Were there searches? Yes, absolutely. But at this point, it really felt like they were trying to just make the case.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that I'll say about this case that was, I think, detrimental is the public interest in it.
We're going to get there too.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not going to touch on it a whole lot, but I will say that I think that played a huge part in...
Huge. And that gets to be part of the actual case at some point too. So we'll get there.
This case just sucks. For the record, I have talked Jordan out of doing this case for so long.
I have a reason.
I know.
She made me mad.
I agree, but still doesn't mean I like doing this case.
I get it. This was actually, believe it or not, this was actually one of the cases that was on my absolute hard no list. And then someone decided to pop up on the good old little TikTok. And I went, no, hold on.
Yeah.
So I'm rage covering this case.
Yeah, see, but I'm a realist. I know that most people that follow her know what she did. They just don't care. I mean, same reason why serial killers have groupies in prison.
Well,
people just...
about to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I don't...
Makes me feel better, okay?
I mean, it may, but it's not going to change anything.
Probably not, but it makes me feel better.
People sometimes are horrible.
Oh, very, very much. All the time.
Anyways, move on. Let's get this over with.
So, this was the time that the media really began to surround the case. Nancy Grace dubbed Caylee Anthony Tot Mom, and the whole of Florida had decided at this point that Caylee was guilty of murdering Caylee. Nancy Grace spoke with Caylee's attorney, the infamous Jose Baez, about the missing toddler. Cindy Anthony went on what I'd like to call a publicity tour to clear the air for her daughter as much as she possibly could, and this was pretty much across the country. But finally, in December of 2008, Caylee was found. A meter reader named Roy Kronk reported a suspicious bag in August, keep that in mind, August, to the police. In December, when he discovered the same bag was still there, he poked around a little bit and discovered it contained human remains. The tiny, almost completely skeletal remains were found in a trash bag with pieces of duct tape still partially attached to the remaining hair. Medical examiners declared it homicide by unknown means. On August 13th, 2009, it was announced that the prosecution was going for the death penalty for Caylee Anthony.
Okay, so a lot to unpack there.
So much in just a little span. Because at this point, you've got the media circus outside, right? And that's just a tiny bit. Okay, like the entire country at this point is enraged because we found her, right? And we know for a fact that she was killed. And they're all enraged. And pretty much everyone at this point is for sure that Caylee did it.
But here's the thing, and this is kind of, again, playing devil's advocate, is I don't think they ever actually proved that Caylee was murdered.
That's the thing. They proved, and they were for sure it was homicide, especially because of like the duct tape and how she was found, but they cannot prove how she died.
But here's the thing, though, because they classified it as homicide based on the way that the body was...
Yes.
However, I don't think we've covered any of them yet, but there are some cases that I want to do where parents, a child has died with the parent, and then they, basically buried the body without turning, or, So, I mean, to me, there's nothing there that says, for instance, that Caylee was murdered or if she died accidentally or, some other way. I mean, they never proved that.
They couldn't. At this point, it was skeletal,
I know.
And
that's what I'm saying. That's the problem. I mean,
yeah.
They classify as murder based on the way that the body was disposed of. And I hate saying it like that, but...
I think a lot of it was the duct tape.
Yeah.
because it was positioned over the face. And I can't think of any reason why you would do that if it wasn't.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just, they just, they never, to me, they just never proved murder. I mean.
And they still haven't.
Yeah.
They still haven't. There's nothing they could do. I know they did like bone testing and there was nothing they could find.
Yeah. And that's kind of the problem with this. You know, a lot of these cases like this is, a lot of these are just, they are circumstantial. That's just the nature of them.
It is. And I hate this because at this point it is working in their favor.
Yeah.
In Casey's favor. Because they can't prove anything. When you really desperately need good evidence.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Yeah, and that's the problem is that they don't, they didn't do a good job. I mean, that's the bottom line.
No.
They couldn't prove the bare minimum. Yes, she lied about a lot of things. You know, yes, it's suspicious, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff adds up to, you know. But even with all that, it still doesn't explain, you know, one, why she would kill her. Two, how she killed her.
The biggest thing people have is that she was tired of being a mom. The entire time that Caylee was missing, she was out partying. She got a tattoo. You know, it's not typical, and I say that with little air quotes, it's not typical behavior, you know, when you're missing your child.
No. I mean,
And I say that with air quotes because nobody grieves the same way. And I get that. I do. And I sure wouldn't grieve that way. I'll say that. But I'm not her.
I hate this case. I think I've said that already multiple times.
He's sitting over here just, this is his, I'm angry, Pat.
Yeah, it is. It is the, I've just got to take a neutral stand on these cases. You know, I've got to leave my feelings out of it and just look at it objectively.
That's the only thing you can do.
And
it's impossible for a lot of people to do, but
yeah,
what else can you do at that point?
Because in case I'm not, you know, there's some people who are still not clear. I 110% believe that she killed Caylee Anthony. 100%. But objectively, there's just no evidence to prove it.
Yeah. We'll get there.
Yeah. And it's so freaking hard, especially in this case, because like I said, I've got 2 young girls, and this case just hits home very much. So, yeah, go on so we can get this over with.
So, fun fact, because the case was basically nationwide, they had a really hard time finding jurors because at the very least, you know, when she first went missing, all of Orlando was looking for this little girl. Mm-hmm. And everybody at this point was more or less biased that Casey was a murderer. So it took them forever to find jurors that wouldn't just immediately believe Casey did it. So when the trial finally began on May 24th, 2011, the prosecution told the story that, you know, we all put together basically on our own, that Casey incapacitated Caylee. They said using chloroform, and I'll explain why in a minute, then suffocated her using duct tape. When she didn't know what to do with her body, she left it in the trunk until she found a place to dispose of it, which is where Roy Kronk found it, not very far from the Anthony home. But Jose Baez threw out a brand new narrative about what happened to Caylee, and it left people with so many questions, which worked completely in their favor. He said Caylee actually drowned in George and Cindy's pool, that George covered up the drowning to protect Casey, and to cover Casey's lying habit, he said that George had sexually abused Casey from childhood, forming a lying habit from a young age to protect George. Now, of course, on the stand, George denied all of this. he and Cindy both also denied saying the car smelled like a dead body, totally recanting their statement, except Cindy just said it was an exaggeration. I can't.
Okay.
I'll let you
Again.
process that for a minute.
Again, objectively, crap as that theory is,
It's plausible.
yes, that's the problem. Is it's very much plausible because, you know, especially victims of sexual abuse as a child will often, you know, have those traits.
And here's the thing. He knew his job, and he's very good at his job. I really hate the guy, or really, really hate the guy because he's skeezy and just ugh. But he does his job very, very well. And all he's got to do is create an inkling of doubt.
Yeah, that's I mean
That's all he's got to do.
But here's the thing, though, because this is why this case never made sense to me, and why I believe that the grandparents definitely had something to do with this. This is, if it is a murder, it is almost too perfect.
I will say some of it makes sense and some of it doesn't if it was just purely Casey.
See, none of it really makes sense to me just because there's almost no physical evidence.
Mm-hmm.
There is, you know, no eyewitness statements.
Yep.
And, I mean, you're telling me that, you know, because at this point the trial's happening, she's probably the most infamous person in the United States.
Yeah. I mean, she was literally dubbed the most hated woman in America.
And you're telling me that nobody remembers seeing her, you know, put that bag there or...
Right. That's what I'm saying. If it was Casey, it just doesn't make 100% sense. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe Casey is conniving and she is smart.
Yeah.
I do believe that because she's gotten around a lot of things with her lies. But I don't know if she's smart enough to pull this off by herself.
Yeah, I mean, not as perfectly as she did, if she did it, which I still gotta say that. However, honestly, some of the best murderers, you know, have been cops.
It's the truth. And
they know what to look for and what, you know, so they know how to hide it the best. I mean, to me, it just makes sense. Like,
this is just my opinion. Personally, I like George. At some point, he even attempted suicide. And I don't know whether that was guilt.
yeah.
I don't know whether that was, wow, I raised a daughter who could do something like this. I don't know if I don't know what it was.
I mean, that's the problem, is it could be any of those things.
It could.
And I want to make myself perfectly clear here. This is my opinion. I am not stating fact. I don't know what happened. No one does. But in my opinion, there is no way she could have done this alone.
It doesn't seem like it.
Because, yes, she's good at lying, but, I mean, a lot of people are. I mean, goddamn, we got a whole friggin' Washington, D.C. full of people who lie for a living.
The whole government.
Yeah.
All of the government. Every one of them.
So, I mean, being a liar does not necessarily mean you're a murderer. Or you could become a murderer. However, I mean, I don't know. There's just, to me, there's too many unanswered questions that they never even addressed. And as crappy as this defense attorney is, I mean, he does bring up a valid point.
No, he does. He took every single question that they threw at him and created doubt in it.
Yeah.
And honestly, as skeezy as the guy is, he did his job. And he did it really, really, really well. And honestly, they didn't have much of a case to begin with.
No.
They should have found more evidence. They should have done more. Not maybe thrown the death penalty in there, because I feel like maybe they would have prosecuted on something not quite as far as the death penalty.
I don't know. I mean, I think I think they'd have really, I mean,
No, I mean, there's reasonable doubt in there for sure.
I don't even think they could get her on, disposing of Caylee's body.
No, that's fair. I mean, we'll get there here in a minute, but
I mean, there's no evidence whatsoever. I mean, I hate this fucking case. I really do. So ultimately, the prosecutor, did this because of public outcry. That is the only reason that I believe that I don't even know if it was a he or she. I don't know.
it was
don't
a
really
he, I
care.
believe.
I just hope they're not a prosecutor anymore.
Honest to God, the amount of things that I've read, 99.9% all said the prosecution, the prosecutor. I've been working on this case for like 3 months.
No joke.
My brain's mush.
You would think that the prosecutor's name would be more synonymous with this case just because of how much they fucked this thing up.
You really would, because the biggest names in this case are obviously the Anthonys and Jose Baez.
Yeah. I don't know. Are we done yet?
Almost. Almost. There was also, the tiny bit of forensic evidence that we had, and somebody had searched how to make chloroform on the computer. So Cindy took the fall for Casey, saying that the search bar auto-filled chloroform when she was trying to search for chlorophyll, which is, what makes plants green, except it was how to make. So I don't know how you would make chlorophyll or why that would be important. She was trying to see if it was toxic to her dogs, which is definitely not what I would personally Google, and that doesn't make a lick of sense, but all right. Sure.
Again, devil's advocate. Have you ever seen some of the way old people search on Google?
Yeah, you're not even wrong.
So
that's fair. I have seen.
And this was back in 2008? I forgot what year it was.
Yeah, it was like 2008 when this actually was happening, and then 2011 in the trial.
So, I mean, Google is still relatively, I'd say not new, but I don't think it was as widely used as it is today. So, I mean, again, old people, technology don't usually mix.
I don't mix with technology.
That's true. We got to get everything that's Jordan-proof, and surprisingly, there's not very much technology out there that's Jordan-proof.
There's not. I've only broken a few things in the room so far.
Except for Rode mics. Apparently, Rode mics are Jordan-proof, which is very nice.
Anyway, it was also noted that the cadaver dogs detected human decomposition in Casey's car, and a hair matching Caylee's hair after decomposition, that's important to note, after decomposition, was also found in the trunk. But Jose Baez once again brought doubt into everything. There was no test that could be 100% positive that it was Caylee's hair because it didn't have the root. So forensics tested the air in the trunk of the car for decomposition, which was positive, but Jose Baez asked so many questions about the plausibility of the testing itself. Everybody just had questions. There were so many questions in the courtroom that they couldn't even answer anything.
Yeah. And that's the problem, is they knew that these questions would come up. And they did not do anything to address that.
No, they should have been 1,000% prepared. And he's kind of like a bulldog, except he's just extremely charismatic. And he's got to be smart as all hell, because he knew exactly how to go into this. And he was ready.
And I know defense attorneys get a bad rap, especially portrayed in like TV shows and stuff. But honestly, defense attorneys are just as important as prosecutors. It's part of the whole justice system as a whole. It is. And I mean, this guy is a good attorney. He's
very good.
Because ultimately a lot of what these cases rely on fall on is how good the prosecutor is based on how good the defense attorney is. Yep. Perfect example, the O.J. Simpson case.
I believe, yeah, it was. He might have even been the same. I don't remember. I'll look that up later.
What?
I thought he might have been the same representative. He represented somebody else who was really famous.
No, because O.J. Simpson was Johnny Cochran.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry. Yeah. I know Jose Baez has represented a lot of other really big cases that were in everybody's eyes, a landslide.
No.
And he got him completely off the hook.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a good defense attorney. Kind of interested to know how she afforded him, but...
Would love to also know, but...
So, I don't know. I mean, he's a good attorney, plain and simple. I don't blame him for anything he's brought up because it's all very valid questions. And
right within his job.
If I was on a jury, it's the questions that I would be asking.
Yeah. So...
And that's why I always say that I would not be a good person to be on a jury.
Oh, God, no. People would tell me complete nonsense. And I'd be like, okay.
I'd just be like, I'd just ask all the questions. Like, people would hate me because, I wouldn't convict unless I was 100% sure.
I would hate you.
Yeah. You already do, so that's okay.
All right. So it was also found that when questioned, keep in mind, one of her favorite things to do was play in the pool, and she had a habit of climbing up the pool ladder herself. So going back, supposedly anytime that they were not using the pool, they had to put the pool ladder away because she would climb into the pool herself. So when questioned, they asked if the pool ladder was in place on the day Caylee went missing so that she could climb into the pool herself. And yes, it was, which led to yet more doubt in the jury's eyes. In the end, we all know how this goes. On July 5th, 2011, Caylee Anthony was found not guilty of first-degree murder, aggravated manslaughter of a child, or aggravated child abuse. But she was found guilty on several charges of basically lying to the police. She was sentenced to 1 year in county jail and a $1,000 fine, but she was also fined over $200,000 basically to pay back the state of Florida. Now, this is the fun part, because after this, the world lost their shit. They lost their shit. Because I get it. I get it. We get it. We just went over this.
Yeah.
The narrative is we see the story happening. We get it. But there's not the evidence to support it.
Yeah. That's the problem. And I will say really quickly, this whole them charging her $200,000 for prosecuting her, that's bull.
No, I think it was all the lies and the running her everywhere and all that fun stuff. And the search parties and...
Yeah, which... I don't know. That's stupid to me.
It was going to be more. It was going to be 500 some odd. They broke it back down.
Yeah, I don't think that's kind of... Yeah, we charged you for a crime. You were found innocent, but we're going to go ahead and charge you for charging you type thing.
She was found guilty of other charges. Lying. 4 counts of lying.
Misdemeanors.
Spent time for him.
They're still misdemeanors, though. Obviously, I hope I made myself perfectly clear on how I feel about this case. I am trying to be very hard to be objective, but I hate it. I hate this case.
I get it. And I understand. I feel the same way. I'm pretty sure most people do. The difference is we understand that the evidence just wasn't there. I don't know if it ever would be enough to actually get a sentence out of her. I don't know. I don't know if they needed to look harder. I don't know if they needed to look in other places. I don't know if they needed to question everybody differently. I don't know if they needed to question other people.
No.
I don't know. But I don't feel like there was enough there to try.
See, and then there's been many cases where someone's basically got away with murder for years. The police basically knew that they were guilty, but they still didn't charge them because they didn't have the evidence. And it took them years to build a case. But then they finally built the case and then charged them. And that's what, if you don't have the evidence, you don't charge them because now, Casey could honestly literally admit to killing Caylee.
And we can't do anything about it. Nothing.
And that's what's so stupid. Like, you've got to be sure that you have a case. Yeah. Because otherwise, she will get away with murder.
she literally can't be charged again.
Yeah. I mean, there's, obviously there's other ways that they could try to charge her, but there's definitely some loopholes that they could do, but probably wouldn't stick. And
No, they wouldn't stick, for sure.
um,
Her fancy lawyer would make sure that they wouldn't stick.
I mean, I don't know. This, on one hand, I think she's a piece of crap who definitely, definitely doesn't deserve to still be alive. Not that I'm advocating death or anything, but I have very strong feelings about this. However,
No, really?
however, the prosecutor did not do their job, plain and simple.
Nope.
That is,
The defense attorney sure did.
yeah. The defense attorney, I know a lot of people hate this guy, but I'm actually impressed with the way he did. I mean, he did his job above and beyond.
Yeah.
He showed that the prosecutor didn't have a case. I mean,
That's all you have to do is create
yeah.
an inkling of doubt.
But I don't know. This case just, I hate it. I wish it would have turned out differently. I
We
wish
all do.
I wish Caylee was still alive. Ultimately, that would be the best case,
It would be the most phenomenal thing if, Zanny the Nanny was real and we found her. But that's just not how things played out.
Personally, yes, I do believe Casey killed her. But ultimately, the state didn't prove it.
No. And don't get me wrong. The pool theory is 100% plausible.
Yeah.
It's plausible. I don't know if it's true. I have no idea what actually happened. None of us do. Nobody knows for sure except the person that actually did it. But
I don't necessarily think Cindy was involved to begin with.
I think she knew eventually.
Yeah, I do.
But
too.
I don't think she was initially involved.
No, because one, her 911 call is the one that, started this whole thing basically. Yeah. However, I can't say the same for George.
I honestly don't think George had much involvement. I know that you have other opinions.
Yeah.
But I really don't think he did. And that's just a gut feeling, and I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't know. I don't think I don't know. I just, like I said, there's no way she could have done this on her own. It just doesn't make sense.
Especially when they just threw George to the freaking sharks.
No.
In the trial.
Ultimately, this whole situation sucked for all of them. I don't know if any of them were involved. I have my opinions, but ultimately I can't say that for sure, anybody was involved. None of us can, but
Caylee Anthony was known as, and probably still is, the most hated woman in America. But this isn't the end of Caylee Anthony. No. Caylee Anthony recently popped up on TikTok, posing as a legal advocate. Millions were enraged, but others followed her channel to see what was happening. Me, when I saw Caylee Anthony pop up on my For You page, my first thought was, how many people have forgotten this woman? How many people have been born since 2008 and haven't heard the story? Will we ever know what happened to Caylee Anthony without someone finally admitting the truth? Probably not. But at the very least, we can remember Caylee Anthony's name and her story.
So, the story sucked. Let's not do it again. What are your guys' opinions on this? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be pissed off at what I said.
Oh yeah, we're going to make lots of people mad.
Please let me know in the comments below. I truly do love reading all the comments.
Even the mean ones.
Yeah. We may disagree, but, ultimately, we all want the same thing.
Let us know your theories. Let us know your thoughts.
And don't forget to subscribe and stick with us. We're going to have a lot of fun stuff coming up.
We will see you next time at Mysterious 51.